He had slightly increased the level of toadying when addressing Lady Lavinia. She was the Earl's sister, after all, and Lady Hardcastle. A title's a title, even if one is only a knight's widow, but the rest of us were treated with an off-hand superciliousness that was beginning rather to get on my nerves by the time he was ready to leave. He clearly thought that a gang of moneyed fools mucking about in high-powered motor cars was a recipe for disaster. We had got far less than we deserved, and I suspected it was only the fact that Lord Riddlethorpe was involved that stopped him from telling us all so. It wouldn't have been so bad, but it meant that Sergeant Tarpley, the local bobby, seemed to have taken the inspector's behaviour as leave to display the same dismissive attitude. He was still as polite and deferential to Lord Riddlethorpe as he had been when he arrived, but he seemed now to think that he was at liberty to dismiss the incident as yet further idiocy from the young Earl. The Earl himself was still in shock and had said very little. When it became obvious that the inspector was wrapping things up and readying himself to leave, it was Lady Hardcastle who took over. "Thank you for coming, Inspector," she said, gesturing towards the library door. "I'm sure you'll let his lordship know if there's anything else that needs to be done." "Of course, my lady," he said, bristling slightly at the feeling he was being dismissed. She led him across the room and opened the door to find the young footman lurking outside. "Evan will see you out," she said. She turned round to address Sergeant Tarpley. "Perhaps the inspector will give you a lift into Riddlethorpe," she said. "No need, m'lady," said the sergeant self-importantly. "I come on me bike." "Of course you did," she said with a smile. "It really has been most generous of you both to give us your time and your professional reassurance." There was no doubt in either of their minds now that they had been given their marching orders. The inspector's eyes flicked towards Lord Riddlethorpe before saying a curt, "Good day to you," and marching off after Evan. In other company, I suspect we'd have got a "Now look here," or an "I shall decide when it's time for me to leave," but his snobbery got the better of him, and he decided that starting a row in the Earl's house was bad form. Sergeant Tarpley trotted obediently in their wake, and we were left once more to ourselves. The atmosphere was understandably subdued, and once again Lady Hardcastle took charge. "Right," she said briskly. "At times like these, the proper English response is to have a nice cup of tea. Armstrong, dear, please pop down to the kitchens and see what you can scare up. Morgan, I think we need to retrieve the crashed motor car and bring it back to the coach house. It would put his lordship's mind at ease to know whether there was anything wrong with the machine. Press gang any staff you need to assist you." "Who the devil put you in charge?" said Mrs. Beddoes coldly. "Fishy should be ordering the servants about, or Jake. Certainly not you." "Lady Lavinia?" said Lady Hardcastle. "What?" said Lady Lavinia absently. "Oh, yes, that will all be fine. Carry on, Morgan." Lady Hardcastle smiled, Mrs. Beddoes glowered, and Morgan and I beat a hasty retreat. News of the day's events had already reached the servants' hall, and we were all but mobbed as we entered. Mr. Spinney sternly called for order, and the hubbub died down, but it was clear that we weren't going to get out without sharing our side of the story. As succinctly and as unsensationally as we could, we took turns to describe the events leading up to the crash. By the time we'd finished, the large, ordinarily cheerful room had fallen silent. One of the junior maids piped up. "My ma always said nothing good would come of them motor cars." There were murmurs of agreement. "Dangerous contraptions," said another. "His lordship should be ashamed of himself, risking his friend's life like that." "That's quite enough of that," said Mrs. McClellan severely. "We'll hear no more of that sort of talk, thank you very much, girls. Get back to your work now." "Quite right," said Mr. Spinney. "Get back to work, all of you. His lordship still has guests, and we must be as quietly efficient as ever, more so in fact." Muttering, the staff dispersed and went about their business. While I organised a tea tray and one of the junior footmen to deliver it, Morgan had a quiet word with Mr. Spinney. He left a few moments later, accompanied by the groom and the boot boy. I kept out of the way, while Mrs. Ruddle supervised the preparation of the tea and the provision of cake, and then I, too, left the staff to their labours and went back upstairs with the footman. He set the tray down on a table in the library, and I poured cups for everyone.